It's a fact you're not here. You ain't even real, but you still bring me fear. You make my bones so tired that my soul stands up. But now I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. It's like I'm starting to need to bleed to fill this cup. Oh.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to The Working Wing, the podcast where every week we bring you news from around the country and around the world from our own unique working leftist perspective. My name is Tim Schultz, and joining me, as always, my dear friend, longtime debate partner, and a man whose infinite brain box is open and he's achieving unbelievable growth. Killian Collins is unbelievable growth.
Oh, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim. Good to be here. We have a couple things on the agenda this week. Some things a little historical, but some things really relative to today. I think
a momentous week in the labor industry, or in the labor side of things. As one of the, I mean, so one thing I hadn't realized is that, all right, we'll reset. The Writers Guild of America, the WGA, is on strike.
Yep.
Declared on May 1st.
Yeah. On May Day.
Fittingly on May Day. Fittingly enough, yes, the WGA went on strike after negotiations with the studios. There's some acronym, I don't even have it written down, but the studios. We know who the studios are. Their negotiations broke down on the 30th. And yeah, it's interesting. Because like going into it, I hadn't really realized just how bad things had gotten for writers.
Even since the last writer's strike since 2009?
Yeah, so the most intriguing numbers I saw, and these are from the union, but you know, we trust unions on this show. Writers' pay in the past decade is down 4% in absolute terms. For the average writer on like a studio production, and that when you add in inflation over the past decade, writers' pay is down around 25%.
Yeah.
Over the past decade for your average working writer in Hollywood. And so the writers' demands center on. There are a bunch of demands. They aren't like the interesting thing here is that the guild and the studios aren't even particularly close as far as like coming to a deal. They seem to be a ways off in a lot of demands, but like basically it comes down to streaming. It comes down to streaming entertainment and how that has completely warped every aspect of Hollywood. So like one major thing that the unions are taking issues of is like, you know, back in the day when you were launching a show for like CBS, it'd be 20 to 22 episodes, guaranteed 9 months of work for everyone in that writer's room, and it would be like a full, you know, 10 to 12 person writer's room, and that would be guaranteed paychecks. That would be opportunities to be on set learning with directors. That's kind of gone the way of the dodo. Like now the average show that gets made in Hollywood is, you know, 6 to 8, maybe 10 episodes.
Yeah.
And you know, unlike in the old days when these shows were being written while episodes were being produced, now for like an 8-episode show, the studios are like, no, we want you 6 writers to come in and write, you know, 6 episodes before we even give it a green light. And so sometimes these writers are barely making anything for shows. And some of these writers are like, well, yeah, if you want to take like 3 weeks of your life for a low daily rate to work on to write a show that's not even going to make it to air. You know, that's 3 weeks of your life where you don't even have a chance to make any money.
Yeah. where you have no, yeah, you're pretty much loyal to just like everything you have to have has to be a hit. Like, and that's how the studio would probably ultimately like to see it to be.
Well, and so then the biggest demand to me, one thing, the biggest demand to me is that writers want eyeball residuals. They want to get paid residuals on their work based on how many people watch it.
You mean like over and over again?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great idea.
So for a show on Netflix and 15 million people, or that show gets watched, 15 million times, they want to get paid residuals on those 15 million views. And the thing about it is that studios have never and will never, they do not want to show those numbers. And part of it is that like a lot of these companies have made big streaming investments that have just like not paid off, and so they don't want to like tank their own stock. But then for like shows that are unexpected hits, they don't want anybody to know about that either because they don't want to share the results of that with the labor.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's a lack of like basic transparency of like what even is a hit in the year 2023.
Yeah, and I think that like the paid by eyeballs thing that says a lot. It says a lot about like rewarding shows that like ended up being sleepers and really weren't given the chance to like actually grow and find like a fan base for it. And it really kind of like let shows die a more natural death too. It's like it really kind of lets the consumer kind of the chooser of the media market kind of like decide what they actually want a little bit more accurately too.
Right.
But I think the studio kind of wants to go off of like what's really profitable though. Like what doesn't cost a lot of money, which I mean, like for a while, even with cable, like before streaming was a thing, that was like, well, for a while, and like, after the 2000s, it was like reality TV. That was like, and it was all over the place too, even in like the 2010s and stuff. It was still like, you have like, well, it's not quite reality TV, but it's shot like it. It's edited like it, and it's just like a way to make very easy to produce, cheap to produce TV very quickly, and you don't really need writers for that. And I think that was kind of an answer. I think that was a bit more of like what the market was looking like back in 2009 too. Is like that was the crisis. You could call it like a technological or capitalist crisis of like of demand and like what a market and how a market was being used by capitalists in power to be used against labor, like that type of landscape. And versus now, where it's like, as you say, it's streaming now, so it's like completely different. It's not based on it's just based on like how much money Netflix gets with all the shows that they're producing, and the writers and with this way of this new technology of streaming and this new way of getting media out there. There's not really that way to kind of, I mean, labor has to find a way to like be able to rebargain again because basically the studios are kind of controlling this new service that's more widely available and more convenient and is taking over faster than cable is. And while cable and all these other technologies are dying.
I think one of the stories I read said that July 2022 was the first month where more people consumed content on streaming services than they did on cable.
Yeah.
So like that is fully taken over, where like streaming is now the dominant entertainment model.
Yeah. And I know it's like, you and I are used to this, but it's like, it is really just, showing that it's like, yeah, we're taking over the last, or just showing how America, even with like the older generations, are just starting to use streaming and these other things as more of a preferable alternative to like anything like shit on cable, really just entertainment on cable, whether it's entertainment or news, especially too. That's another big thing. how people consume their content, like from the media, for the news, really affects a lot. It's very different now than how it was even 10, 14 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, and really all the work these workers are really kind of demanding is just the eyeballs thing is great too, because it's like I will give I give so many eyes to like Better Call Saul
and the writers of those episodes do not get
and that's so sad.
any more money because we rewatch episodes of Better Call Saul, or like a couple weeks ago I was rewatching early episodes of Succession, and the writers of Succession deserve more money for that, but they don't get it.
No. And that's a real shame, because like it definitely isn't the type of shit that anyone can do, or anyone can just kind of toss together in no time. And I think that's kind of how these studios like think things work. I mean, there's a meme going around.
That's definitely how they want it to work. And and you can tell, because like one of the other big demands is that the WGA, for at least the length of this contract, wants a blanket ban on the use of AI in screenwriting.
Yeah.
And the companies were like, yeah, no, we're not willing to agree to a blank. Well, we're gonna have a meeting. We'll have a meeting with you guys every year to reassess to reassess where AI is. But it's like they would really like that's the thing. They want to get rid of screenwriters altogether is their ultimate plan, and they're kind of telling on themselves in these negotiations.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't think AI is quite there yet to like make like a really relatable and good human story. They might be able to make some crap right now, but the thing is, because it's like, but humans make crap. Like it's like that's totally true, but it's like
right. But like, yeah, it's. I mean, there is a reckoning coming with AI and like with streaming of what is the value of streaming entertainment, because the WGA is striking now, and then the Directors Guild and SAG both have contracts that are up for negotiation this coming June.
Oh, really?
So like it's not just the writers. There is a reckoning across every aspect of like the creative side of Hollywood. Of like they need to figure out what the value of streaming is and how to actually compensate the rank and file laborers on these projects.
Yeah, that's a hell of a fight that's going to be upcoming, and it's inevitable.
It is
because of technology.
It's yeah, and I feel like I don't know how this plays out either, because like it really comes down to, I mean, like it does in every labor action, how long can these workers hold out? And like the timing, the Hollywood has like a long production process, and so it just takes time for studios to feel the heat on this stuff, but they are going to be feeling the heat eventually.
Yeah, it is. It's a fight they're going to have to start making. And speaking of a fight they're going to have to start fighting for, and a struggle they're going to have to start struggling for, and ways they're going to have to start organizing, it is kind of on. Yeah, the WGA also they announced their strike on May Day, and it is the anniversary of the Haymarket riots, as it is well known, which is basically the anniversary of a labor strike that was in support of 8-hour workday. Yeah, and that was the big struggle in America at the time, and a bomb of unknown origin had been thrown, and then basically 15 anarchists and / socialists were imprisoned or basically given the full grief of the government for this. But besides one man who had been exonerated or been pardoned by the governor, who was basically the guy talking at the time, who was like of Christian origin, so he was more sympathetic for the governor, I think. I need to look at my details with it. I need to
know
who the hell they are. Yeah,
So,
I'm talking about
the initial. Yeah, it should be noted that the initial rally at Haymarket Square was in response to the Chicago police just murdering workers at the McCormick Reaper Works.
Oh yes.
There was a strike. There was a strike at a factory, and Chicago police, as they are then as of now want to do, just started killing people. It's
yeah. So yeah, I think people were pretty angry.
Well, yeah, it's just grim. Like what do you even say about that? It's just fucking grim.
Yeah, and then how do you respond? And how's it go when there's another confrontation where the police once again approach again and say like, okay, it's time to disperse now. Yeah, it's something to be said for the need for negotiation, the need for knowing that the workers are willing to sacrifice life and limb.
Right. And it should be noted, like you alluded to at the start of this, the people who died at the McCormick Reaper Works were striking for an 8-hour workday.
Yeah.
That notion was so radical and dangerous to the people, to management, that they were literally murdering people.
Yeah.
8 people died in the McCormick Reaper Works. 4 of the people who were arrested as a result of the Haymarket riots were sentenced to death and were actually executed. It's the history of labor rights in this country is a bloody one.
Yes, and a scary one because afterwards, the aftermath of it was Chicago the Chicago PD trying to basically pin it on whoever was organizing it, really trying to do what they always do and kind of break up anyone trying to organize them. And basically these leftists had to pay the price of their freedom and their lives for it.
Right. That's like, and like, it's important to keep this shit in mind because, like, I feel like especially amongst a certain class of like Democrats, the neoliberals are like, they look askance at unions, where it's like, well, do unions really work though? And it's like, aren't unions just kind of like unreasonable a lot of the time? Like they want to take your money to do stuff. And it's like,
which used to be a conservative talking point, but they've adopted it now.
Like, yeah, no, like I see it. I mean, I see it all the time when I'm on like the Amazon subreddit talking about these issues. Like whenever a union issue comes up, there will be at least a couple of fucking douchebags being like, "Nah, man, I've been in a union before, and they just take your money and don't provide anything." And it's like
they protect lesser workers.
A lot of it is like they protect lesser workers,
they're
which is like, hey, first of all, act your fucking wage, man. You ain't management. You ain't paid there to be watching anybody else. Like, and B, like, this is the shit that unions do. We did not have the fucking right to an 8-hour workday in this country or anywhere in the world until the men at the Reaper Works at McCormick died for that right. The people at the Haymarket riot died to bring us that right. Organized action from working class people is the only thing that has ever managed to make a change in the day-to-day conditions of working class people.
Yeah, it is that sacrifice. It is the war that has been fought at home. And it's not only a struggle of the past, it's an enduring one. It is an ongoing one that is going to have to be fought time and time again. There is this relationship, as long as there's going to be a relationship between this and your employer where it is not as reasonable as having that civil contract between one another, where the employee is always held by the balls all the time, where they don't really have. It's basically just like accept this or starve, and that's what freedom is, and that's like the big notion, and that's my big problem with, because it's like I do think like America has more freedom than like most of these other countries in the world. But I think like one of the biggest problems and the biggest hurdles for America to get over is that starving to death isn't freedom. like not having your basic needs met, not having your mental needs met, not having your health needs met,
right,
is not like, that's not freedom.
Yeah, and the word freedom gets twisted. So, like the Supreme Court in labor actions has always used workers' choice as a way to strike down basic labor protections, and they ignore the basic context that in every single paid labor situation, there is a power imbalance. Like you said, management always has any individual worker by the balls.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny too, because it's been the kind, like, I don't want to go too much of a rant about the past, but it makes me think about.
Reach. I think that's where we're at. Go off.
I'm not trying to go off. I was kind of gonna thinking about some just basically how labor had changed since like the Civil War, and basically how management had been used. Well, just mostly with like the plantation economy in the South, how just like all this had just been used to just like really just keep people down, including the people who were used as workers to keep the slaves down. Like like using that to like just kind of to keep people pitting themselves against each other.
You're right.
Using like bringing up classes in between race and other classes to just constantly build on top of that.
Yes, no, like the use of race to drive a wedge between people whose economic interests are ultimately the same has been a thing throughout American history.
Yeah.
And it goes right back to the very beginning, to those first plantations.
Yeah.
Where like if you can look at like the laws of Virginia, or like some of the first things they ever did was create laws preventing white indentured servants and black slaves from intermingling.
Yeah.
Because they intentionally created those racial divides there.
Yeah. They want division. They want division. They want them to like spread rumors about each other and be afraid and not know anything about one another.
And that carries on right until the modern day.
Yeah.
The history of racism is a class one as well.
Yeah. It is a class one. And mostly because what got me kind of thinking about it is just, excuse me, a little bit too much coffee. It's just kind of like the plight with management and with the plantation class, like the upper crust of that, being able to control, basically all of this. And that is kind of like the anarcho-capitalism like dream of just like, well, let the chips fall where they may. And it's like, well, it would be this then. Protecting the rights of like the individual protecting the rights of like the slimmest minority is protecting the slave owner. Is protecting the mass exploiter. And the thing is that like those rights of the mass exploiter do not matter. That it is not a human right to just like own people and their lives. It's not like a human right to just have like billions and billions and billions to just yourself and who you decide.
No, like, you're absolutely right. And that's the right. There is no right to maximum profit in the Constitution.
What's the name of that? What's the name? Oh God, I actually really know his name. Louisiana governor. Who's the Louisiana governor? John Goodman played him. Huey Long. No, Huey Long once said that he basically used a great analogy for and he wasn't a communist or a socialist, but he was like he was getting damn fucking close, because he used a great analogy for the people of Louisiana when he basically mentioned, it's like, well, this system that we have right now is just it's basically if you have a man come to a barbecue and that one man consumes 90% of the food that's meant for like 2450 people. Like, like any of those numbers. One man consumes that much of this food. Everyone would gang up on this guy and say like, dude, what the hell are you doing? You're not entitled to all of this. Like, you're entitled to your fill. Like you're entitled to like maybe bring a little bit home, but you can't bring the whole damn thing home. You can't bring it. And really the argument for that, I really, it's how like a lot of the Supreme Court, it's how America really was built. It wasn't built. I mean, as Howard Zinn says in People's History of the United States, it wasn't really built for like common people. It was built for the owners.
It was absolutely.
Yeah. And even like one of our faves, like Mr. Alex Hammy, like
Alex Hammy
was totally about that.
Alex Hammy is a problematic fave, to be sure.
I mean, when
you look at like the specific policies that he favored and some of the systems that he kickstarted,
for sure,
problematic fave for sure.
Right. But it's like, it's one of those things about like, if you're in a revolution, do you want like that slice of the pie? Like, dude, are you not going to take that slice? Like, Hamilton's going to be like, oh, hell nah, dude. I'm going to take my fucking slice, dude. And then some.
Yeah, no, he wanted his to the max always, for sure.
Yeah, man. Like, yeah. some interesting stuff there, but you know, I know we're getting a little off topic with it, but it's just, all this kind of stuff kind of gets, I am glad that's why we wanted to have this show, like, because these are the type of things that we would just talk about. Yeah, it was just you and me together, where absolutely. It's just like, oh yeah, like, but you know, like normally this is kind of what we expected the show to be, is just having the news lead to us discussing these type of things ourselves. But it's like, yeah, dude, like the history of this country with basically protecting the ruling class owners, and it really is just that thing I hate so much about like the libertarian stealing of like or that clinging on of the American thought of just like, nope, it's about like the slimmest minority. It's about the slimmest minority, and that's the individual. And it's like, okay, but like the individual at the very top, that's who they're talking about. They're talking about the individual up there, and I want to make that just abundantly clear. Yeah, like that's who they're talking about. Is like when they're talking about the mass right of the individual, they're not talking about like your right to free speech, or your right to like say something unpopular, or your right to protest, or your right to spend money where you want, or your right to privacy. They're not talking about any of that. They're talking about the right for somebody to own another human being, or just take total control of others. Yeah, that's what they're talking about.
And where that, so I think this is a good time to transition into the second part of our episode, because where that leads us to Kendall and Roman Roy. That leads us, and this is why I love Succession so much as a show, because I feel like kind of like in a way that not, like you have other shows that talk about like, you know, some of the endemic systems of oppression in our society, you know, like The Wire did that, or examine the hollowness of you know, certain aspects like Mad Men did. But no other show I can think of takes the concept of being rich, which is such a like fundamental Western ideal, and just shows how fucking ridiculous and the like absolute absurd depths that it can lead you to, like Succession does.
Sorry.
And I think, yeah, I feel like that's kind of what's, I mean, there's 4 episodes left. We'll see how they land it, but I feel like that to me is always the message of Succession, of how ultimately hollow and destructive and meaningless it all really is at the end of the day. And I feel like we'll get to like the you know, beat by beat episode discussion, but like there is at least one scene in this episode that I feel like really encapsulates that.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of ready for the beat by beat. I'll be honest with you, man.
Yeah. All right. So my one sentence, I haven't done this in a while, but I feel like this one actually does break down. We got Roman fires a bunch of people. Kendall channels his cokehead energy into literally his first ever good business moment. And then Shiv and Tom find the rarest thing of all, genuine emotional honesty.
Yeah, that's good. There's a lot of moments like that.
There's so many.
Episode.
I
like,
mean,
oh
so
God.
there probably is some genuine emotion. So we open with the man himself.
Big old green screen right there.
Everyone I've heard talk about this episode has immediately gone to like a Hamlet place with this. And I feel like in some ways that's valid. Of like Logan Roy is Hamlet's ghost in this episode. He appears. He's looming large.
He's looming very large and really kind of doing his thing and chastising the kind crew around him that's just trying to do their job and get the best out of him. Saying some shit for the investors that needs to sound really good, like asking him to put a little pep in his step.
Yeah. Logan trying to sound enthusiastic about what seems to me to be we'll talk about it more later, but like a genuinely terrible business idea,
a horror show, a literal horror. I'm gonna get into this, Tim. I'm like ready for this part.
Oh yeah. But then like the real point of the scene, of course, is when we zoom out and we see Kendall.
Yep.
Just wanting to see it again and again and again.
Oh, I loved it because like Hugo because Hugo's looking at it.
He's like, that's bullshit, man. And Kendall's like, no. Let's do it.
That's again. A Valentine's Day card.
It's a Valentine's Day card. Let's
run it again. Let's run it again. Like he's kind of just like embracing the hate, and it's like they did so good this episode because it just kind of looks like Ken's crazy. Like it's just like I'm looking at this dude, and it's just like. Yeah, it just looks like it's because Jeremy Strong is so.
Jeremy Strong is off. He's so fucking good.
Oh my God,
he's so fucking good.
Dude, making me believe this method shit is like,
dude, just like just like the looks on his face, like no other actor working today can convey so much with just like a look, an expression. Like Jeremy Strong did.
Dude, I think there's like a whole page just about like Kendall Roy looking sad. And it's so funny because it's like, well, yeah,
it's like there's so many nuances to it too.
There really is. It is so much of the show, but it's like he plays literally it on so many levels.
Yeah,
it is crazy, and it's funny you mentioned the Hamlet thing because like you really get those vibes off of that of like this kind of like this tragic character who's like done all this shit and and where it is this whole series is very Shakespeare. I gotta show you this video of a YouTuber who she did a whole little video essay about like the similarities with Shakespeare and Succession, which I mean
I think I have actually had send me that link. I think I have actually seen that exact video in my feed this week.
It's not, but of course it takes a lot of elements out of King Lear. Like that's pretty fucking
King Lear is definitely also very much
pretty obvious in this, but Kendall's basically taking this is kind of his blessing and kind of saying that I'm gonna go in his shoes. I'm gonna go forward with this new program you're going called Living Plus, because the next part we get onto is actually Shiv on the plane getting a call from Madison trying to kind of flirtsy with her. And then he
walks across the tarmac barefoot like a fucking maniac,
playing little footsie with her. He basically comes over and says like, yeah, you're my girl on the inside, aren't you? And she's like, no, like fuck you, you're my boy on the outside. Like get the fuck out of here.
I hate you. I love my brothers. Get the fuck out of here.
But still kind of like wink. I might be telling you something. Like still definitely
she is playing both sides in a big way throughout this episode.
Yes. Yeah, she really is. So yeah, but Madison basically says that I don't like this Living Plus thing, whatever this is. And as we find out more and more about it, we see I think then right after that we see Roman and Kendall walking into Waystar Studios.
Yeah, we see them walking. Yeah.
Which I don't know. in my head, it's like, where do you picture Waystar Studios as being? Like, do you picture it in LA?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay,
that's definitely their Burbank office or whatever.
Yeah, so like, yeah, they show up there and they basically are starting the little meeting with the suits and the family all together, talking about like what their battle plan is for Living Plus and the investment board meeting.
Well,
the investment or the investor meeting.
Yeah, this is such a cringy fucking scene. This is such a because like the big theme of this episode is just how fucking terrible Kendall and Roman are as CEOs. Because like they try a maneuver here where they're just like, guys, I don't know about this. This guy, you crazy.
Yeah.
Like you got like Kendall fucking Roy has the balls to sit in front of these people and say, we shouldn't trust this people because he does drugs sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, you're Kendall fucking Roy.
Yeah, he just kind of seems like erratic, just kind of seems like, flaky and erratic. And it's like, oh, you mean like
you?
like hearing it from the fucking suit, like the suits are just like, oh, guys who had put up with their dad like a fucking horror show for years, when these nepotistic brats are just going like, well, we don't seem to really like him that much. We don't get good vibes from him. With of course Shiv knowing the whole time that
Shiv clocks it a million miles away.
Well, because Madison told her about what happened.
He did. Totally unprofessional, totally dumb, screaming at me. Yeah, he told her what happened on that mountaintop.
Yeah.
And like that, this is a great scene of Shiv just straight up calling them on their bullshit. And Roman, like the little boy that he like is
the most disingenuous sorries ever.
Yeah.
Like the most like, Shiv, like we didn't want to like let you in because we didn't want to cut you in on, like we want to keep you clean out of this, it's just like sorry we didn't tell you. And I love Kieran Culkin's like, I am sorry. Can we do it?
I am sorry. Can we do a hug? Sorry? Can I just have I'm a little boy. Can I just have a hug?
Yeah, with an awkward Kendall coming in for the group hug and like Shiv giving that awesome like I fucking hate both of you. Yeah, that's the hug. Like great stuff there.
Because then we go from that group hug to Shiv's scheduled grieving time, where she just goes into an empty conference room and starts to have her breakdown.
She's called away for it by an assistant to be like, Shiv, like you have a meeting you have to go to, and she's like, okay, I'll be like, I have to go to this thing. I can't skip. And she goes and cries. And to which Tom and Greg walk in as they're stumbling foolish selves,
doing their disgusting brother shit.
Yeah, and like Greg and like Tom kind of ships him to.
Greg fucks off.
Yeah, and Tom consoles Shiv, asks her about what's going on. She tells him that she's doing scheduled grieving because things are fucked up, and he tries to be that. He embraces her, and she goes in for the kiss, and they share that. He gets her in that vulnerable moment.
He does, yeah. Yeah,
and it's not to say.
I don't think. Yeah,
I don't think it's. I'm not to make it sound creepy or anything, but it's just like, that he is trying to get her back, and he is trying to be there for her, and Shiv is like a shut him out person. Like she's there at this point. Yeah, she like shut him the fuck out, and she always really has been. And at this point, the fact that he's getting in past that really does kind of show that, like, well, he might have something to that. But we'll see how this plays out as it goes on. What's after the grieving scene?
I think after the grieving scene is that that's Kendall and Roman and Greg doing brainstorming stuff. That's
oh yeah. Yeah, they're brainstorming how they can fuck up the deal.
Yes, exactly.
Because they told the board some bullshit about like why they want to fuck up this deal, or
that's it's Kendall doing his cokehead business stuff. We just need You know, all we need is unbelievable growth.
Yeah.
And even Greg, even
he wants to price
fucking idiot
out,
Greg is like being a little sarcastic of like, oh, all you need is unbelievable growth. Okay. Yeah, it's like the start of Kendall's like manic fucking spiral throughout this episode.
Great contradiction. All we need is unbelievable growth. Make people well, he needs people to believe unbelievable growth. like mass into the point where he doesn't want to buy the company himself.
Right, exactly. That's the idea of like all we need is to just make Waystar so valuable that Madsen can't buy it or doesn't want to buy it.
Yeah. And it's just been a big old shit ticker. And like I think Roman's just kind of like shaking his head the whole time during all this. Oh, doesn't Roman doesn't he at this point?
After this he leaves and Kendall's like pep talk, you know, we just need to unblock the pipeline, hit after hit, and then Roman goes to his meeting with the studio head.
Yeah, Joy. And yeah, he shows up and she's pretty pleasant. Like they're having this nice little.
I mean, she's pleasant in that like LA pleasant type of way.
Oh yeah.
Like clearly, yeah. She does the condolences. He's like, no condolences, all full, icky.
Yeah. Well,
and then
Rome comes off to me in this meeting as like a dick.
He's a super dick. He is a super dick, and like if any of the shit that he was doing in this meeting gets out, it's going to be a huge PR nightmare for them.
Yeah.
Because like he was basically like, all right, who got fired for this Transformers movie fuck up?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't really care what you have to say. I'm just going to give you a bunch of money, and I want hit after hit after hit. And she brings up the like, hey, a lot of people don't want to work with us because your company is in bed with a Nazi.
Yeah, it wasn't Ravenclaw. It was the presidential candidate. It was the fasci.
Yeah.
But he says like he has a little line. He's like, he's mentions IP, whatever.
Yes, he's mentioned as a piece of IP, just like anything else.
Yeah,
like that itself is a Logan Roy line.
Yes,
like that's a line that you could hear Logan saying, but like the thing about it is that like with a little bit of pushback, Roman just freaks the fuck out and spirals into a you disagreed with one thing I said and therefore you were fired.
Yes, complete spiral out of control. Like maybe I could fire you. Like it starts as a little like power trip thing. Like it's like
there's so many power trips, and that to me is one of the crucial differences. Is that like, yeah, exactly. It's I could fire you, and then once he said it, he naturally just like I have to fire you.
Yeah. And of course she's saying like this is like a huge mistake. This is like a huge fuck up if you do this, and he doesn't care. Storms out like a little boy. completely gets the fuck out of there, and then I believe right after that he goes right back to Kendall.
Yeah. So then we transfer to the Kendall is channeling his brother Connor when it comes to his event planning bullshit. Where he's like, all of a sudden, I want a full fucking Living Plus house on the stage. I want photorealistic clouds in the sky, and I want it all done by tomorrow.
Yes.
And that's where he's like, all right, new rule, no one can say no.
All to present Living Plus, which I think we haven't explained this yet, but what Living Plus is.
Yeah. Shiv and we kind of get our first taste of what it is when Shiv and Madsen are talking on the plane. It's land cruises.
Yes. It's basically making ATN run retirement homes.
Yes.
And it's like, if you know what's happening on the cruises, then holy fuck will the abuse of the elderly be rampant in these ATN fucking old people death camps.
Yeah. And I think Disney actually does have at least one of these There is like a Disney
Disney neighborhood.
Disney neighborhood out there somewhere.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. I don't know who would want like their life run by a corporation like that. But yeah, Kendall is also trying to Kendall's trying to make the most out of this to show the investors this thing is going to be like brilliant. And he's trying to make like a whole fucking like German stage show like out of this. He wants like a fucking like beautiful like fucking 1950s home with like artificial clouds that are above it that look real and stuff. And like that's what he's really focused on. He's like, can we do clouds? And these four fucking like stage tech and producers, like this poor crew is kind of like looking around just like, you want this done like tomorrow? And he just kind of looks at them with this like dumb grin on his face, like it's Hollywood, right? It's Hollywood.
It's Hollywood, right? Yeah, you can do it. It's Hollywood.
So Hollywood. like hey guys, I got a cool new rule. Nobody can say no. Nobody could say no. Right? You're on board with this? All right. Thanks, Kendall. Thanks, Kendall, for the cool new rule. And I love it because Roman comes in right then. You hear Kendall be like, for the cool new rule, Kendall. Like loud as fuck. Kieran Culkin's so good with this commentary. It's fucking awesome. But yeah, that's him. I think that's his cue where he's coming in. And just hearing that, like, oh yeah, my brother's on a fucking another stupid ass tear. After I got done with mine, Kendall, and he asked like how the meeting went, and he's like, oh yeah, like nothing happened. It's fine. Like
it's fine. It's all great. You can't again. Roman is a little boy.
Yeah.
Like that. That's kind of like I feel like we've seen a lot of that, but especially since Logan died, Roman has just fully reverted to being like a little man child. And then after this scene, we go to the gala. The investors gala.
Yeah, more investors reception, and that's where like Tom's flirting with Shiv a little bit, or Shiv comes up to Tom, and she's giving him shit a little bit.
She's like, "Am I? Yeah." It's like, don't you want to get into it and get out there into it? And he's like, "It." And he's like, the vaginas of all these friendly women who are tall enough to be models.
Yeah.
And man, this scene was fascinating to watch. It's kind of like a full accounting in miniature of their relationship, where like Tom is like, "I'm sorry, I fucked you up so bad," and then Shiv tries to be like, "Oh, you didn't fuck me up so bad. I was broken before I met you. You didn't even touch me," which is bullshit.
Yeah.
And then they play Bitey, which, man, that was just fascinating to watch. Like
I listened to the podcast, and like one of the writers said that like, I think it's like one of the writers or something like played this game as like with like as a kid.
I had heard that. Yeah, that like
which makes more sense of just like being able to kind of use this and to like show these two people's like kind of passive aggressive relationship.
Well, yeah, and it's like it has to hurt, right? Like that's kind of
someone has to give up. I mean, it sounds like a Logan Roy thing.
It has to hurt. It is definitely a Logan Roy thing, and I feel like, yeah, in some sense, Tom probably wasn't what broke Shiv. It was really like with all the kids, Logan was the man who really broke her.
Yeah,
but yeah, love has to hurt. Love has to involve like giving up. Tom Wamgans finally made me feel something. And then I think they go home and fuck. But in the moment we shift back to Kendall and Roman and their accountant.
Oh yes, I love this part. I feel like this is like written in like, if you play an accountant as an actor, you're a nervous actor. Like I feel that's the director being like, yeah, you need to play a nervous person.
Well, yeah, especially when you're a top level corporate accountant who is dealing with this like coked up fucking moron basically trying to strong arm you into committing
almost worse,
securities fraud.
A coked up sober moron.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. You're a sober cokehead who was trying to strong arm you into like committing just so many felonies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
it's like,
or you're trying to gently explain to him, like, yeah, I'm not sure if I can stretch that. And Kendall say, like, push through the fear. It's only scary because it's like it hasn't been done before.
what? And that's the thing, because like the fundamental idea of this is that like, oh, we're gonna have a tech valuation on this real estate program. And it's like, I don't know how familiar you are with WeWork, the company.
Tell me about them.
Well, WeWork is that thing. They are like a legit company, but it's like they sell like co-op workspaces, basically, where they like buy some property and they'll rent it out to like, if you're a freelancer or like a small company that just needs like 3 desks at a building or something.
Okay.
But the big scandal is that like they had a disastrous fucking IPO of so many people were pouring money into this company specifically because they were like trying to pitch themselves as a tech company.
Oh, because they used an app. And
because they used an app and a lot of their clients were tech people and one of their biggest investors was I forget his name, but he's some ginormous fucking tech investor. Okay. But the thing is that like real estate and technology aren't the same fucking things. And I like one of the Succession podcasts I listen to is a business podcast. And like the host was like breaking it down in terms of like when you have a software company, you can scale that. Yeah. Like it is, you can make one copy of your program for the same cost that you can make 50,000. But you cannot make one, office building or retirement home. You cannot make 50,000 retirement homes for the same cost as one retirement home. It does not scale like a tech product. Like it like these, it's just they're fundamentally different, and so this Living Plus thing is just bullshit. It's a bad product. So
it's definitely there. I mean, A, it's a bad product in general, but B, it's like they're definitely over. And even if this thing was like financially successful, they're far overestimated.
Right. Yeah. Even if there was a core, even if there was a core, a kernel of a good business idea, Kendall comes in and it's like, no, we're gonna lie about the potential of this thing.
Like literally blow up the numbers to. Yeah, as if you could like copy a software copy a house like a software program.
Exactly.
Like without the cost of building the house or any of that. Yeah. Not gonna be too fun to deal with that later on. But yes, the account is getting out pretty nervous.
Right, and then also during the scene is when Roman gets pulled aside
by Jerry
for his little chat with Jerry, and Jerry tries to lay down some truths to Roman, and
some truths like you shouldn't fire a executive producer just because you're mad at her. It's a huge disaster. You should talk.
She wasn't even an executive producer. She was a studio head.
She's a studio head. Oh my god. Okay.
This is like it's big news. It's a big deal what he did in that lunch meeting, and she tries to tell him like, you are a weak king during a dangerous period for your company, or during a dangerous interregnum. You are weak. You are not your dad, and that's what breaks Roman in this scene, right?
Yeah, because he responds with just like, "I need you to respect me,"
right?
Like I'm my dad.
And like the thing about it is, Logan never had to demand respect from fucking. You never heard Logan mention the fact that he was the CEO of Waystar Royco ever. He never had to like big dog people. I mean, he big dog people constantly just as like a fundamental nature of his being, but he never had to say, don't say fuck to me, I'm the CEO.
Yeah.
And if you don't respect me, I'm going to fire you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of just goes back to like, the king doesn't really have to say it. And it just goes back
to... king doesn't have to say it, yes.
It goes back to the rest of like the brilliance of this show, where it's like, there's so much just about Logan Roy where he just had to, so much of what he said was just in code. Like when he had to tell Kendall that like, you're going to take the hit for cruises. Like, we're giving you up. You're the sacrificial lamb. He didn't say it like that at all. He basically told Kendall a story that him and Marsha used to read and explained that, yeah, these other candidates aren't going to work, but it was understood he was the one. He never pointed to him and said, Kendall, you're the number one boy. You have to take the hit. He didn't even say it like that. He gave him that, son, you're going to jail, in the most like indirect way he possibly could have. And Rome did not learn from that at all. Rome had to just like approach it and go for the neck and say, you need to respect me like I'm my dad. And Jerry has the honest question, like,
the great line of like, because Roman tells her, I need you to believe that I am as good as my dad. And she's like, do you need me to say it or believe it?
Yeah.
Oh, Jerry, all-time champion.
Yeah. And then Roman gets so mad at that he says that Jerry's fired.
Jerry's fired.
Again, which probably won't stick at all. And then he goes back to Kendall and tells him that we might have to get rid of Joy, and that we fired Jerry. Like, I fired Jerry.
Right.
And Kendall embraces it. He's
Kendall,
just like,
because Kendall doesn't give a fuck about the details of the business. He just wants to make big moves. And he paints this absolute fantasy for Roman of like, oh man, just imagine the articles, co-CEOs fire their leadership team, grumble, grumble, grumble. But some are saying these two young Turks may be the men for the job. And Roman, emotionally vulnerable, broken little boy, just like lights up like a Christmas tree and is like, hell yeah, bro, like, we're doing this. Go ahead and coke up this whole presentation and I got your back.
Which is he'll feel a little bit different once he gets over that once he feels a little once he sobers up a little bit, off of the emotional high.
And then we get to, all right, this scene, I fucking love this scene. It's Shiv and Tom in the afterglow of their evening. Shiv is like looking at her phone, and I think she's reading a text. She's reading text from Madsen.
Yeah,
and they get into like some of like the like why did their relationship break down, and that's really what it finally comes out of like Tom, why did you betray me?
Yeah,
why did you betray me to my dad? And Tom kind of, like I think Tom's response is kind of the core of the show, right? Or like what follows is the core of the show, but like Tom's response might be like the single most honest thing any character on this show has ever said.
Yeah, the ethos of most of these characters.
I like money, and I didn't have any money. I like stuff. I like money, and you always shut me out to the point where that I was always directly between you and your dad, and your dad represented more money and more stability and more safety and more ways for me to get stuff, which I like.
Very honest answer.
Very like the single most honest thing probably anyone has ever said on this show.
Honest, direct, like
Yeah, like it's yeah, you always shut me out. Like I never thought that you and I were on the same team. I never thought that your money was my money and I wanted money, so I did what I had to do.
Yeah.
And then they get into this conversation of like it's again, like, to me this is the core of the show of like love and happiness versus money, because they talk about like, oh, you and I, we could be happy together. They kind of they're both quietly acknowledging that of like you and I could be together, it could be chill, we could be happy, but then we wouldn't have as much money. And she's like, yeah, you know, you don't love me, you wouldn't like give up the money to like just come be with me. And Tom's like, yeah, would you do that? Would you like just come and move to this fucking trailer park with me and we would live like normal happy lives together without billions of dollars?
We'll go to 3-star Italian restaurants.
Yeah, like,
and like I love that, where it's like that's their purgatory. Like that's
their fucking purgatory of like their biggest luxury is going on. I mean, they don't say this, but like you can kind of like their biggest luxury be going on one of your family's cruises, and it's like the idea of that life is just fucking fundamentally laughable to them. They and in that moment they understand each other. It's two people actually connecting and actually understanding each other and acknowledging that like, no, you and I are in it for the fucking money and we're gonna be on that train together.
Yeah.
And it's honestly in its own like weird, cold, dystopian, fucked up way, it's honestly kind of beautiful.
Yeah. It brings me back. It makes me think of two things. One, because it's on my mind. It made me think back to like the little like just because of the rich person comment of when in like the second season when they're like mad at each other and because Tom's like thinking he's gonna go to jail, and Shiv's kind of being a bitch about it. Like he's and they're looking for the perfect cove. And they keep stopping at these coves, and Shiv's like, "This one's fine." And Tom is kind of like being so prissy, just like, it's not the perfect cove. Let's look for the perfect one. There's billions of them out here. And, you know, and they just sit on this beach as rich people, this beautiful ass beach that like is so like elusive and exotic. And they're fucking like just mad sitting there. Like
just sitting there. That's also the scene where Tom drops that all-time line of like, I think I'm unhappy most of the time with you. And it makes me wonder sometimes if I would be happier not with you.
Yeah.
It's man, these two are fascinating.
They are. It's a very fascinating relationship. I also thought about too, it's just like we saw at the beginning of the season, like Tom tries to talk about tries to offer, said like, do you want to talk about what happened? And Shiv says there's nothing to talk about. There is nothing to talk about. Which would obviously there was like there was a question on Shiv's mind that she didn't want to ask because she didn't want to know the answer to it, because it was ultimately true that she picked Tom because of what her dad said. It was she wanted to pick a man that she wouldn't feel betrayed by, and Tom
a man who she knew was beneath her as well. Yeah.
And but the thing is though is if you treat your significant other like that, you shouldn't be too surprised if they betray you, because if you treat them like dirt, then they're going to have to look out for their interests, because obviously you're not going to do it.
Right. And I honestly think they come out of this episode the strongest they've probably ever been in the history of the show. I feel like they've reached a level of understanding of like, if Shiv wants to go fuck Madsen, then like that's fine as long as Tom's money is all right, and they kind of understand that. Yeah. If Tom wants to go, you know, face deep in some model, then like I don't think Shiv is going to mind that, as long as like he's got her back on crucial board votes when it comes to the company or whatever. Like it's
yeah. Still no mention of the baby yet either.
She has not mentioned the baby. Yeah, that's also very interesting in the context of where they're at.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. But we can go on that for a little bit longer. But we should continue on to the next plot point of
Still, I think we go back to Kendall and the accountant. Kendall's like browbeating the accountant. 2 to 3 per month, 10x the revenue. It's just all ludicrous bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think after that scene of like where it really nails down. I think also in there is when we get Greg browbeating the audio.
Yeah. This poor editor is in there, and Kendall says, "Okay, this part," or Greg says that this part here. What I need you to do is I need you to say they're going to double. What Land Cruiser is going to double what they get on regular cruises. Can you get him to say that? And the editor's like, I don't think I can like do that. And
Greg's like, no, I need you to do that. You can't do it because I need you to do it.
And then he builds it into like, you understand? So get to Snippy Snip boy. his little shitty Greg insults.
Yeah.
But yeah, we move on. I think that's how like all the characters spend the night, because then we go into the next morning, right?
Yeah, and that's when Shiv is telling Madsen that they're going ahead with the product launch, and Tom is sitting right there too, kind of as like a symbol of the new paradigm of their relationship. Yeah. I think of like Shiv is free to do her like flirty back and forth power games with Madsen, while Tom just sits there and watches. He wants her to kill the product. Yeah. Is the message. Which the business podcast I listened to also pointed out that like, yes, Kendall fudging those numbers is a security fraud, but also Madsen does not control the company yet. And so him as just a prospective buyer telling Shiv to like kill the company, that is also an SEC violation. But
you think it's their little secret? Yeah. Yeah, that is a little bit sketchy. Yeah, it was a little sketchy there. But yeah, this is the start of the investor meeting, right?
Right. Well, yeah. So we get Kendall. This is where we get Kendall and Roman and Shiv all together back in like the auditorium doing the last pre-pro, where they're showing them. Kendall is critiquing what they've managed to achieve over the night. It's not the clouds. It's not the clouds I fucking saw in Berlin.
Well, it was a skeleton of a frame of a house. It was like not a house at all. It was like they're working on it. They need like maybe a week to do it. But Kendall's thinking, his ass is thinking it's going to happen. He's like, okay, well let's see the clouds, and they have these like misters, like these mist foggers, like kind of spray a little like. Shitty
like, that's not the clouds. That's not the clouds, guys.
Oh, his head going down just like that. Guys, it's not the clouds. It's not the clouds. It's not the clouds, guys. Like it's like I need you to work harder.
He's so devastated, man. Jeremy Strong. It's like Jeremy Strong is not a recovering drug addict or like a manic depressive personality, but he plays one. He captures that energy so perfectly.
So good. So fucking good, dude. But yeah, he sees that like he crumble in front of Shiv is talking to Roman about like, so like you don't want to be on stage with him for this.
Right.
It's a fucking disaster.
Like, right. And it's like this is and I found this interesting because it's like it's framed as this calculating move, completely undercutting their brother on a personal level, is framed as being like for Roman's own good. And like this is exactly how Logan always operated within the family too.
Yeah.
Of like every time he wanted one of them, kind of like you were talking about with like the story thing. But like every like shitty calculating thing Logan ever did was always framed as like, oh, this is for your benefit.
Yeah.
In the long run. And that's exactly the tack Shiv takes here when she's talking to Roman.
Yeah.
Of like, I'm just looking out for you. You don't want to be caught up in this mess.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it starts getting to him because then we go then we start going backstage, right? And
Yeah, we go backstage and we see,
and Kendall's in front of the mirror, and he's got and goes up to, and Roman's like kind of looking at him and like, what has he got on? It's like these.
Oh no, he's got a flight suit.
Yeah,
he got a flight suit because they're launching it. They're gonna launch it, to the moon. I think it literally says to the moon here too, like just peak fucking meme business bro shit.
Ultimate cringe lord. Like, it's like, honestly, Kendall Roy is the ultimate cringe lord. Like, he is like the total bait for it. Like, oh yeah, God, it's so good. Like,
and he's like, the way he tells him, like, I had him axe the clouds, man, and Roman's like, oh yeah, no, those clouds are bullshit.
Don't need them. Like, don't need them. Don't need them.
Yeah.
He's also explaining that basically Roman starts telling him like his kind of reluctance to want to go on stage and not do this, but he's also doing it in like the little boy way, where he's not just saying like, this is a bad idea and I don't want to be a part of it. He's just doing, like, he starts going into like, man, it's your idea and I don't want to fuck it up. It's your idea and I don't want to fuck it up at all. I don't want to do anything like that. Like, it's like your thing, and like that's fine. And he's even trying to like say like some parts that are reasonable, like, hey, we can't just like tell our accountant to just like inflate numbers like this. And Kendall's just like in full denial mode and full like manic addict mode of just like, we had to. It's just like there's a choice where you just had to do that. We had to do that shit. We had to. And it's time. It's time to just kind of going crazy with it, not really believing that that Roman is like saying like, I'm not going to go on stage with you because this is a fucking disaster and you're on your own. It's like,
like phrasing everything as like, yeah, this shitty thing I'm doing to you, it's for your own good, buddy.
Yeah. And while really kind of showing him, I mean, and Karen Cogan's so kind of good at just showing that subtext with Roman of like what's really on his mind with just his body language and just how he communicates. But Kendall is left alone holding the bag. And then right before he gets on stage, Carl is harassing him in the hallway saying like, hey buddy, how you doing?
I had that message down. Hey buddy. Good luck to you, buddy. But he tries to be like, he tries to start it off all friendly and shit.
He starts off great. He starts off like he's talking to like Logan almost, like as if it's like he's talking with respect and just, but it's also he wouldn't approach Logan at all about it. He'd know.
No, you would fall in line behind Logan.
Right, like full throw. But he just wanted to know like, hey, like what are you saying so you don't fuck me? like I'm hearing these numbers and it's like, I'm not sure if like I can like stand behind this shit. Like, are you gonna go up there and say
because like the thing is not like Kendall refuses to show him the numbers because they're blatantly obviously fraudulent. And Carl would never want to stand behind them. And then Kendall does another CEO drop of like, hey, I'm the CEO, you're the CFO, know your place. And that's where Carl just shows that dog in it, where he's like, listen to me, you little shit. Like, I took a lot of shit from your dad, but like he actually knew what the fuck he was doing. You don't, so I'm telling you right now, if you fucking embarrass me with some bullshit numbers, I am gonna go squeal like a little pig. You've got your balls in my hand, but I've got your balls in my hand.
and then Kendall says like, great, understood, right? In the back of his head, knowing that I'm going to do exactly that.
It's like, and Carl's like, good luck to you, buddy. Carl's been like a low-key MVP.
Savage, dude. Savage, man. Like,
because he wants to get his fucking golden parachute after long last. And he wants to go buy his Greek island with his brother-in-law.
I'm half in on it.
He's half in on it, bro. Like, he's got to get that money.
Oh, I was like, bro, I worked so hard for this. I took all that shit. But yeah, no, and then but that's Kendall's send-off is hey, if you do exactly what I know what like you're planning on doing out there, like an impromptu, I'm gonna fucking kill it. Like I'm gonna rip your dick off. So yeah, Kendall proceeds to go on stage, and with the start of it, it's a very big like.
It kind of seems like it's gonna be a train ride. It's a great little bit of misdirection where like they set it up to be like It's the train wreck we all saw coming.
Yeah, Kendall starts off with just saying that, like, all right, big shoes to fill. They just repeats that. And, Kieran Culkin's got the great reply, or Roman's got the great reply of, yeah, big nervous breakdown. Like, I wouldn't want to be on stage with someone like that either, where it's like, I have to save it and I don't know what I'm doing. Because Roman is also very flustered under pressure via his presidential phone call.
Greg is like giving commentary to Tom the entire time of like, oh man, all you're gonna have to do is clean the blood up the floor.
Yeah.
It's but then Kendall turns it around. He comes off as like a smooth talking tech CEO. He brings up his dad and he just stands there talking to his dad's image
with like the edited outtakes of what they were gonna have for the presentation, with like Logan looking down at him like all it does look like surreal as fuck. Like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the looking down. Of course, like all the suits hate it. All the suits just despise it, and
yeah, they're like, oh man, what is he doing? But like, it goes well. Apparently, Twitter likes it. Apparently, there's upward movement on the stock. He lays out the case for Living Plus and what it offers.
Very similar to how the other Logan stories are too. With a lot of lies and conjecture and things that aren't quite true.
Yeah.
Really things that you want to tell the investors about how profitable this is going to be and how much you're going to want to live in something like this. Who want to live in something like this? It's living just extra.
Integrated content. Directors are going to come by and share cuts.
Of films that I haven't finished yet. Of you might be. We're going to give you what they call it, like extensive quality living.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be fancy. It's gonna be
like you're gonna live longer.
Yeah,
you're going to live longer, like by 40, 50 years.
Right, exactly. He pivots into like the medical technology, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and then he goes for like the emotional appeal of like, if I could just have one more year with my dad to say all the stuff I never got to say to him, I would pay anything.
Yeah.
And like. At some level, like, yes, it's smooth. Yes, apparently Wall Street likes it. But, like, at the end of the day, it feels kind of meaningless. And, like, Logan was, like, this was never Logan's bag. Like, Logan was never, like, the smooth fucking, like, TED Talk CEO guy. Like, Logan, we saw Logan trying to be, like, the smooth delivering the message thing at the beginning. He was fucking terrible at it.
Yeah.
But he knew what the fuck he was doing when it came to business, so he never had to be good at stuff like that. So like Kendall gets a win here, but I don't think it's actually a meaningful like win in the sense that Kendall wants it to be. I feel like the fallout from this is going to hit him next episode.
Well, in the middle of this presentation too, Shiva is like calling Madsen.
Shiva's moving. She's like Madsen, this is going too well. You might want to throw a wrench in the works. And so then Madsen sends out a tweet. Dodrick mocked Fry with Dodrick the dog, the Waystar Waco mascot, holding balloons in front of Auschwitz.
Oh my god!
And like that is a play on the Arbeit macht frei, work will set you free, which was like the motto of Auschwitz. That was like hanging on signs at Auschwitz.
Yeah.
Totally bad taste tweet.
Yeah, to try and take stuff up, and of course, like it happens, and the first question out of the audience once Kendall throws it to the audience is, "What do you think about this tweet?"
And Kendall, to his credit, actually handles it well. He's like, "Well, I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't. He's like, I wouldn't fave it." Yeah, no, he pivots well.
He seems like a normal person.
He does manage to pretend to be like a normal person for like 20 whole minutes.
Like he says exactly what a normal person would say about that. Of like, well, I don't want to talk shit, but like, he's European.
Very European, yeah.
Like it's like, you know, but he still managed to go on without talking shit about him directly. And then, I remember right before this too, he gives a shout out to Carl, and to really kind of make sure that his dick is attached to this.
Yeah.
So
and like Carl, Frank, and Jerry are just sitting in like the upper gallery, just like watching it. And I mean, Carl, for all the bite that he showed earlier, after the speech is like, oh, I could tell special, and that was special.
He's sucking up.
These little, yeah.
Because Greg too is like right after that, like right before Tom goes on stage, he's like, I'm not sure how Tom's gonna be able to get up to that. And then like
he's like hugging Kendall,
he welcomes Kendall back, like welcome back. He's like, yeah, good luck, Tom, like bye, whatever. And he's like, hey, that's great job, buddy. Like
yeah, and so Kendall goes back, he's getting acclaim and love.
Oh, and Tom Wopkins, I have to mention Tom Wopkins' start.
You're
an ATN citizen.
I am an ATN citizen. Oh man!
The fact he had to practice that in the hotel room while Shiv was on the phone, like that's why I love that, because he's practicing flashcards. But like, why do you have to practice that part? Like, it's like the easiest shit. But that's a Tom Wopkins craft. I love that.
Yeah, that's his craft for sure.
Oh my lord.
But yeah, so then like Kendall is just the belle of the ball backstage. Roman storms off like a pouty little kid because he missed out on a chance to actually look good.
And then Kendall sends him a little like, I told you so of
man, that fucking video, that deep fake of his dad saying what is it, I'm here to announce a very important thing. Roman Roy has a micro penis and always gets it wrong. And Roman just listens to it over and over, and he like brings it up to his ear. He's like taking it in. It's so fucking broken. It's so devastating.
Yeah, he's poor Roman is spiraling right now.
He really is. He really is.
Because and we have yet to see the real consequences of like all these things yet.
Of all the everything that they've done in this episode. Yeah, you're exactly right. We don't know the consequences of them yet.
Yeah. But yeah, he repeats that over and over again for that sad little bit there. Then we have like, isn't Kendall off in the ocean swimming?
It's Kendall like on a beach in Malibu, and he writes #1 in the sand with his foot, and then jumps into the ocean, and is like floating in the water. Whereas at the end of season 3, he was sinking.
Yeah.
So like, the show at least seems to be like in this moment seems to be one of painting the like Kendall is doing well, but I don't really for a second believe that that's real, and I don't believe for a second that it's going to last.
I think it's like the tide. It's going to rise. It's going to fall.
Absolutely.
I'm still really getting like, I mean, it's so funny because it's like there's so many elements that this show really has to it. Like there's so many like Shakespearean elements here too, with like elements of Hamlet, of like talking to your dead relatives, and like not quite like the wanting to avenge thing, but those type of relationships are there. Of King Lear, of like having these kids actually dividing up the kingdom. It makes me think like I'm still kind of on the edge of thinking of like, well, you know, now that it's the two CEO brothers, it still might be. I mean, I'm still thinking that like ATN and Roystar is still going to like go under completely. It's going to end in like
I feel like I think the deal with Manson is going to fall through somehow, and the entire company is going to fall apart.
Yeah, they're gonna crash the whole motherfucker.
Because like because like that YouTube video you watch, you're talking about is right. This is Shakespearean, and those Shakespearean stories, they never end well for the people involved. It is Shakespearean. It's not one of his. It's not one of his comedies where everyone ends up happy and married by the end.
Yeah. People are married at the end, and I was thinking, like, for a little while ago, I was thinking that, like, well, maybe this will end up like Tom and Greg will get to split the empire,
Even that is, I like going into the season. I was definitely on that page, but like the more we see it, I don't think even that is in the cards.
I don't think
there's going to be. I think you're right. I don't think there's going to be a company left for anyone to succeed by the end.
All right, comment. Here's the link in the chat of that awesome little YouTube page where they talk about Succession and Shakespeare. I just figured I'd just throw that in there, but no, I'm not sure if you watched that yet, Tim, or not. But
I have not, but I will.
Yeah, especially going to be relative with like how they use the language, and it's like how we were saying earlier about how these people are always kind of talking in code and like in kind of half truths, and you really have to like pay attention to like the motivation behind the words and really think about like what their past scenes were like together, what they're talking about with previous people. It's really it's really all very character driven, and how it's decided by how they drive the plot. Well, meanwhile, there are external factors by, kind of like the election, but honestly, their investment in the election is just really their investment. They all could have cashed out forever ago. Like they could have been done with all this shit, not worried about Connor being, Connor like stealing 1% away from their fasci candidate.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see play out as well.
Because I believe that's the next episode is it's election night, and they're all watching at the Roy's, which is pretty crazy to think about. And I think this episode, in episode 6, we like had like probably the most time like elapsed. It was like maybe a day and a half ish, like that. Like I think we basically had like 2 days there almost, because it was like Shiv on the plane in the morning talking to Lucas, and then we had like the reception that night, and then they had the meeting the next the investor meeting the next day, and it ends with like that afternoon with Roman in the car and like and a Kendall on the beach, and that's basically been like about like actually like just about another day, just about another day, maybe a couple more hours. Like
this was at least like 2 days, I think.
Yeah. They're still playing it, like cutting it pretty close with just like what everyone's doing, but still.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Well, anyway, great episode.
Yeah.
Great fucking show. 4 episodes left.
Really, only 4? I thought we have 5 more. Wait, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 4. Fuck. Well, I mean, 4 more episodes of Succession, 4 more episodes to watch those awesome beats and listen to the L to the OG. I can't wait. We gotta, because like once we got to get our friend Kenny on this, because once he sees like how this show like uses the language, I think he'll be like completely on board. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like, especially because I cannot wait to talk to him about like L to the OG, like one of my favorite many moments in the cringe compilation of Kendall.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, Tim, I think that about wraps it up for us. So
yeah, I think that about does it for us. So yes, we will keep watching Succession and keep bringing you the news. And until then, keep liking and keep supporting James Kunka, the creator of our incredible theme music. And if you have any visual artistic projects, hit up Jennifer Much, who designed our awesome logo. Until next time, keep working.
Keep on working.
Back on my feet, that is, if you even care.